At last week's NATO Summit meeting in Washington, Canadian leaders, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, braced themselves for criticism from other alliance members regarding our purported lack of defense spending. While it is true that based on the percentage of our gross domestic product, GDP, Canada ranks in the bottom third of the 32 member states. However, when based on the actual dollars spent, Canada ranks 7th in NATO and incredibly 14th in the world. It is time to target whether or not Canada's military is deserving of the ridicule being heaped upon it by some senior US lawmakers. Back in 2014, NATO alliance members collectively pledged to bring their spending up to 2% of each nation's GDP. At the time, it was the Stephen Harper Conservatives that signed on to that pledge.
When we took office, Canada was spending less than 1% of its GDP on defense every year. But we vowed to change that right away.
Under the Trudeau Liberals, that percentage has increased to approximately 1.4% of GDP. That figure is set to climb to 1.7% of GDP by 2027. To be fair, the Liberals have only ever promised to strive to attain the 2% of GDP goal. They never promised to actually meet that goal. But I digress. The expected backlash did materialize in Washington, D.C., particularly from U.S. lawmakers.
Everyone cannot ride along in the coattails of America.
One of the most strident voices was that of U.S. Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Shamefully, Canada announced in the last few days they're not going to do their 2%. Talk about riding on America's coattails. They have the safety and security of being on our border and not having to worry about that. I think that's shameful.
This is ripe coming from our neighbor and our closest ally. I say this because while we may not be spending the arbitrary proportion of our GDP on defense, the fact is that we have hardly been riding on America's coattails. It was their foreign war in Afghanistan that we supported for more than 10 years. As part of the NATO-led International Security Assistance Force, and as part of the US-led Operation Enduring Freedom, Canada lost 158 soldiers killed, with another 2,000 suffering physical injuries or battle wounds. Of the 40,000 Canadian troops who rotated through the Afghanistan conflict, many thousands are still coping with the invisible wounds of PTSD. There was no victory parade when our soldiers concluded the Afghanistan deployment in 2014. Many a Canadian hawk, in the form of politicians and pundits, decried this withdrawal as premature, as the hoped-for victory was just around the corner.
Our one battle group, for several months, was the only effective fighting force for 5 provinces of southern Afghanistan.
The willful ignorance of these tub thumpers was exposed following the December 19 publishing of the Washington Post story on what became dubbed the Afghanistan Papers.
A bombshell series of investigative reports in the Washington Post
of a trove of government documents.
Officials deliberately misled the public about what exactly was going on.
This collection of documents obtained under the U.S. Freedom of Information Act clearly illustrated that the Pentagon knew from the outset that the U.S.-led coalition could not achieve victory in Afghanistan. Instead of revealing that truth, senior officials conspired to lie to the public to keep them on side in supporting the conflict.
Our troops will fight to win.
We're not losing a war out here by any means.
We are prevailing.
For the die-hard hawks, even the revelation that U.S. commanders knew it was a no-win war did not stop them from hoping for a last-minute miracle victory. In August 2021, that last dim hope was extinguished for good when the Taliban roared to victory against the U.S.-trained Afghan security forces who simply melted away without a fight. When it comes to the war in Ukraine and NATO's efforts to deter Russian aggression, Canada is also not riding on anybody's coattails. As a nation, we have provided Ukraine with military trainers, military equipment, and $14 billion in loans and loan guarantees to keep them resisting the Russian invaders. Since 2017, Canada has forward deployed a battle group to Latvia, where we have command of the International NATO Brigade. Given the sorry state in which our military currently finds itself, maintaining that sort of operational tempo has been a challenge, and that effort is set to grow in scale, with Canada nearly doubling the manning level of the Latvian commitment. I recall an incident back in 1998 when British Lieutenant General Sir Hugh Pike took command of the NATO force in Bosnia. Pike made some disparaging remarks about the quality of the Canadian troops under his command. In response, then Defence Minister Art Eggleton rose in the House of Parliament to defend the honor of our military. His brief rebuttal was simply, "Take a hike, Pike." I would hope that Defense Minister Bill Blair could find a similar quip to dismiss Speaker Johnson's allegations that we are riding on the U.S. coattails. This has been On Target, and I'm Scott Taylor. Before you click like and subscribe, here's a quick word about this week's sponsor. Hudson Supplies Incorporated, established in 1979, this is a proudly Canadian company with a long-standing reputation for stocking quality buckles and components for backpacks and clothing. Hudson Supply's primary goal has always been to provide manufacturers with readily available, high-quality parts. Over the years, they've expanded their reach globally, ensuring that all their products are available with no minimum order quantity. Today, Hudson Supplies Incorporated is recognized worldwide for their extensive inventory and reliable supply chain. Hudson Supplies also proudly serves the military sector with a dedicated division offering specialized products designed to meet rigorous standards. If you have a project and can't find a specific buckle, contact them and they'll assist you in finding exactly what you need. You can always trust Hudson Supplies for unparalleled service and top-notch products. Now, click like and subscribe.